Minji Kim woke up at 5:30 in the morning just like she did every day. The small apartment was cold, and she could hear her mother already moving around in the kitchen. The smell of rice and kimchi filled the air. Minji pulled her blanket tighter for one more minute before forcing herself to get up. Her mother was packing lunch boxes when Minji walked into the kitchen. Mrs. Sujin Kim had dark circles under her eyes. She worked at the Golden Wash laundromat from 7 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. Then she rushed to her second job at a convenience store, where she stayed until 11 at night. Sometimes she worked weekends, too. "Good morning, my daughter," her mother said with a tired smile. "I made extra rice for your lunch today." "Thank you, Mom," Minji said. She felt guilty watching her mother work so hard. "You should rest more." "I rest when you go to college," her mother replied. It was what she always said. "You study hard today, okay?" Minji nodded. She ate her breakfast quickly and got ready for school. She put on her blue jeans and white shirt. It was one of 3 outfits she wore to school. She had 2 pairs of jeans, 1 pair of black pants, and 4 shirts. She washed them every few days and wore them again. Her shoes were old sneakers that her mother bought at a discount store last year. They were starting to fall apart, but they would have to last a little longer. At school, Minji walked through the front doors at 7:15. She liked to arrive early to avoid the crowds. She went straight to her locker and took out her books for the morning classes. Her binder was held together with tape. The metal rings had broken 2 weeks ago, and papers kept falling out. She tried her best to keep everything organized. Her first class was English with Mrs. Patricia Crawford. Mrs. Crawford was a teacher who had worked at the school for 15 years. She had short brown hair and always wore nice dresses and expensive jewelry. She was known for being strict and having high standards. Some students liked her. Others were afraid of her. Minji took her usual seat in the 3rd row. She opened her taped binder carefully and took out her homework. She had spent 2 hours on the assignment last night, writing an essay about her dreams for the future. She was proud of her work. Mrs. Crawford entered the room exactly at 7:30. She put her designer bag on the desk and looked at the class. "Good morning, class. Take out your homework assignments." Students shuffled through their bags and binders. Minji placed her essay on her desk. Mrs. Crawford walked between the rows, collecting papers. When she reached Minji's desk, she paused. She looked at Minji's taped binder and wrinkled her nose. "Miss Kim, that binder is a disaster," Mrs. Crawford said loudly. Several students turned to look. "How do you expect to keep your work organized with that mess?" Minji felt her face get hot. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Crawford, it broke, but I taped it. I keep everything in order." "Clearly not well enough," Mrs. Crawford said. She picked up Minji's essay and glanced at it. "You need proper supplies for this class. Education requires investment. Perhaps you should ask your parents to prioritize school supplies over other expenses." The words hit Minji like a slap. Other expenses? Her mother spent almost nothing on herself. Every dollar went to rent, food, and Minji's school needs. The binder had broken because Minji used it so much, carrying it everywhere, studying late into the night. "Yes, ma'am," Minji whispered, looking down at her desk. Mrs. Crawford moved on to the next student. Minji sat frozen in her seat. She could feel other students glancing at her. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked uncomfortable. A few looked away quickly, not wanting to be involved. Jasmine Rodriguez, who sat 1 row behind Minji, leaned forward slightly. "Don't worry about it," she whispered. "Your binder is fine." But Minji couldn't stop thinking about Mrs. Crawford's words. It wasn't the first time the teacher had made comments like this. Last month, Mrs. Crawford had asked Minji why she always wore the same clothes. 2 weeks ago, she had commented on Minji's simple lunch, saying something about nutrition and brain development. Each comment seemed small by itself, but together they felt like a pattern. The class continued. Mrs. Crawford lectured about grammar and sentence structure. Minji tried to focus and take notes, but her hand was shaking slightly. She wrote down everything the teacher said, filling 3 pages with careful notes. She couldn't afford to miss anything. Her grades were excellent, and she needed to keep them that way. Good grades meant scholarship opportunities. Scholarships meant college. College meant a better life for her and her mother. When the bell rang, Minji gathered her books quickly. She wanted to leave before anyone could say anything, but as she stood up, her taped binder finally gave up. The tape ripped and papers scattered across the floor. Essays, homework assignments, and notes spread everywhere. "Oh no," Minji gasped. She dropped to her knees and started grabbing papers. Jasmine immediately knelt down to help. "I got it, don't worry," she said, collecting papers quickly. Mrs. Crawford looked over from her desk. "Miss Kim, please be more careful with your materials. You're disrupting the class transition." "I'm sorry," Minji said again. Her eyes were burning, but she refused to cry. She wouldn't give anyone the satisfaction of seeing her breakdown. 2 other students helped gather the papers. Within a minute, everything was collected, though now completely out of order. Minji held the broken binder and loose papers against her chest. "Thank you," she said to Jasmine and the others who had helped. "No problem," said Marcus, a quiet boy who sat near the window. That could happen to anyone. Minji left the classroom and headed to her next class. She spent the 5-minute passing period trying to reorganize her papers. She didn't have money to buy a new binder, not until her mother got paid next week. Maybe she could find a cardboard folder in the library to use temporarily. The rest of the morning passed slowly. In each class, Minji participated and took notes. She answered questions when teachers called on her. She was a good student and most of her teachers liked her. But she couldn't stop thinking about what had happened in Mrs. Crawford's class. At lunch, Minji sat at a table near the window. She opened her lunchbox with the rice and kimchi her mother had packed. It was simple but filling. She ate slowly, watching other students with their hot lunches from the cafeteria or sandwiches and snacks their parents had bought. Jasmine sat down across from her.
"Hey, are you okay?"
Minji nodded. "I'm fine. Thank you for helping me earlier." Mrs. Crawford was out of line, Jasmine said firmly. "What she said about your parents and expenses, that was really rude." "Maybe she's right," Minji said quietly. "Maybe I should take better care of my things." "Your binder broke because you use it so much," Jasmine pointed out. "That's not your fault. And what does she know about your family anyway?" "Nothing. She shouldn't make assumptions." Minji appreciated Jasmine's support, but she didn't want to talk about it anymore. She changed the subject, asking about Jasmine's math test. They talked about other things until lunch ended. The afternoon classes went better. Minji tried to focus on her work and forget about the morning. When school ended at 3 o'clock, she walked to the public library 2 blocks away. She would study there until 6, when she would go home to make dinner for herself. Her mother wouldn't be home until after 11. At the library, Minji found her usual spot near the back. She spread out her loose papers and started organizing them by subject and date. It took almost an hour to get everything in order. Then she started on her homework for the next day. She didn't know that tomorrow everything would get much worse. She didn't know that Mrs. Crawford's comments in class were just the beginning. She didn't know that right now someone was sitting at home, creating a fake social media account with her name, preparing to humiliate her in ways she couldn't even imagine. For now, Minji just studied. She worked through math problems, read her history chapter, and started an outline for her next English essay. The library was quiet and peaceful. Here, nobody commented on her clothes or her supplies. Here, she was just a student trying to learn. At 6 o'clock, she packed up her papers carefully and walked home through the darkening streets. She thought about her mother working at the convenience store. She thought about the broken binder and Mrs. Crawford's words. She thought about her dreams of becoming a teacher herself someday. When she became a teacher, Minji promised herself she would never make a student feel the way Mrs. Crawford made her feel today. She would be kind. She would be understanding. She would remember that every student had their own struggles and challenges. She didn't know yet that this promise would be tested in ways she never expected. Minji was washing dishes after dinner when her phone buzzed. She dried her hands and picked it up. There were 7 notifications from different social media apps. That was strange. She usually only got 1 or 2 notifications a day, mostly from her study group chat. She opened the first notification. It was a tag in a post. Someone had tagged her in a photo she didn't recognize. She clicked on it and felt her stomach drop. The account was called Real Minji Kim. It used a photo of her from the school yearbook as the profile picture. But she hadn't created this account. The bio said, "Poor girl trying to fit in. Free lunch program champion." Her hand started shaking. She scrolled through the account. There were 5 posts already, all from today. Each one made her feel worse than the last. The first post showed a photo of her wearing her blue jeans and white shirt. The caption said, "Day 47 of wearing the same outfit. Does she even own a washing machine? Oh wait, her mom works at a laundromat but can't afford to wash her daughter's clothes." The second post was worse. It was a photo of her lunchbox with the rice and kimchi. This is what poor people eat every day, so sad. Maybe if her parents worked harder, she could afford real food. The third post had a picture of her old sneakers. These shoes are falling apart. I guess education isn't really a priority for some families. Minji felt sick. She wanted to throw her phone across the room. But she kept reading. The fourth post showed her broken binder from class. Someone had taken a photo when her papers fell everywhere. Can't even afford a proper binder. Maybe she should spend less time trying to be smart and more time getting a job. The fifth post was the cruelest. It was a screenshot from the school's lunch system showing that Minji was enrolled in the free lunch program. The caption said, "Living off taxpayer money while her mom works 2 jobs. Something doesn't add up. Are they really that poor or just lazy?" Each post had comments. Some were from fake accounts that looked automated, but others were from real students at her school. Most of the comments were cruel. A few said things like, "This is mean" or "Leave her alone," but those were buried under dozens of hateful messages. Minji's phone kept buzzing with more notifications. People were sharing the posts. Some students were laughing. Others were spreading the account to their friends. Within an hour, half the school would probably see it. She sat down on the kitchen floor, her back against the cabinet. Tears ran down her face. Who would do this? Who hated her enough to spend time creating a fake account just to humiliate her? She thought about everyone at school. She didn't have enemies. She kept to herself mostly. She was polite to everyone. She never gossiped or spread rumors. She just studied and tried to do well in her classes. But someone clearly had a problem with her. Someone who knew details about her life. Someone who had access to photos from school. Someone who knew she was on the free lunch program. Minji wiped her tears and started taking screenshots of everything. She didn't know what else to do. Maybe she could report the account. She tried to report it on the social media platform, but the process was complicated. She had to prove it was impersonating her. She had to explain why it was harmful. It would take days for anyone to review her complaint. She looked at the comments again. One particular account kept leaving messages. The username was TruthTeller2024. The comments from this account were especially detailed and mean. This girl thinks she's so smart, but she can't even afford basic school supplies. Her mother works at a laundromat. That's all you need to know about this family. She acts like she's better than everyone, but she's just poor trash. The words cut deep, but something about them felt familiar. Minji couldn't place it at first. Then she realized. The phrases were similar to things Mrs. Crawford had said in class. The comment about school supplies and investment. The comment about prioritizing expenses. Even the tone was similar. No, Minji thought. That was crazy. A teacher wouldn't do this. Teachers were supposed to protect students, not hurt them. Mrs. Crawford was mean sometimes, but this was different. This was criminal. Minji tried to sleep that night but couldn't. She kept checking her phone. The posts kept getting shared. By midnight, each post had over 100 shares and hundreds of comments. Some students were defending her, but most were either laughing or staying silent. She thought about not going to school the next day. She could pretend to be sick, but that would only make things worse. People would say she was hiding because the posts were true. She had to face this. At 5:30, she got up like always. Her mother was already in the kitchen. Mrs. Soo-jin Kim looked at her daughter's red eyes and tired face. "Did you sleep, Minji?" "Not much, Mom." "Is something wrong at school?" Minji wanted to tell her mother everything. But her mother was already working 2 jobs and barely sleeping. She didn't need more stress. Minji would handle this herself. "Just a hard test coming up," Minji lied. "I'm nervous." Her mother hugged her. "You always do well on tests." "Don't worry so much." At school, Minji felt everyone staring at her. Students whispered as she walked past. Some pointed at their phones. Others looked away when she made eye contact. It was like walking through a nightmare. In the hallway, she heard 2 girls talking near the lockers. "Did you see that account about Minji Kim?" "Yeah, it's kind of sad. I didn't know she was that poor. My mom says her mom works at Golden Wash. That's where we take our dry cleaning." Awkward. Minji walked faster, keeping her eyes down. She went straight to her locker and grabbed her books. She had Mrs. Crawford's class first period again. She dreaded it, but maybe the teacher could help. Teachers were supposed to stop bullying, right? Mrs. Crawford was already at her desk when Minji arrived. Minji gathered her courage and approached. "Mrs. Crawford, can I talk to you about something?" The teacher looked up from her computer. "What is it, Miss Kim?" "Someone created a fake social media account pretending to be me. They're posting really mean things and embarrassing photos. Other students are sharing it. I don't know what to do." Mrs. Crawford's expression didn't change. "A fake account?" "Yes, ma'am. They're saying cruel things about me and my family. They posted about the free lunch program and my clothes and—" "Miss Kim," Mrs. Crawford interrupted. "This sounds like typical teenage drama. Students create fake accounts all the time. It's probably just a joke." "It's not a joke," Minji said, her voice cracking. "They're saying really hurtful things. Everyone at school is seeing it." Mrs. Crawford sighed. "Have you reported it to the social media company?" "Yes, but they said it could take days to review." "Then there's not much else you can do. I suggest you ignore it. These things usually blow over quickly. And perhaps take this as a lesson about social media. Maybe you're taking it too seriously." "But Mrs. Crawford, Miss Kim, I have to prepare for class. If you have concrete evidence of who created the account, take it to the principal's office. Otherwise, try to develop thicker skin. High school is full of challenges. You need to learn to handle minor social problems without running to adults for help." Minji stood there stunned. Mrs. Crawford had just dismissed her completely. Worse than that, she had blamed Minji for being too sensitive. The teacher went back to her computer as if Minji wasn't there anymore. "Yes, ma'am," Minji whispered. She went back to her seat feeling more alone than ever. The class started. Mrs. Crawford lectured about essay structure. Minji tried to take notes, but her hands were shaking. She kept thinking about the posts, about the comments, about how no one was helping her. During the lesson, she noticed something strange. Mrs. Crawford kept glancing at her phone on the desk. The teacher would look at it, then look at Minji, then smile slightly. It was a small thing, barely noticeable, but it made Minji uncomfortable. After class, the harassment continued. In the hallway, a group of boys laughed as she walked past. "Hey, Minji, nice shoes," one of them called out. They all laughed. In her second period class, someone had drawn a picture on her desk. It showed a stick figure with torn clothes and the words "Free Lunch Girl" written underneath. At lunch, Minji sat alone. Even Jasmine wasn't there. She had a doctor's appointment. Minji opened her lunchbox, but she couldn't eat. She felt like everyone was watching her, judging her, laughing at her. Her phone buzzed. 3 more posts had appeared on the fake account. One showed her sitting alone at lunch with the caption, "No friends because nobody wants to hang out with the poor girl." Another post showed her report card from last semester. "All A grades." The caption said, "Teacher's pet who probably cheats because how else would someone like her get good grades?" The third post made her heart stop. It was a photo of her mother at the laundromat taken through the window. Her mother was folding clothes, looking tired. The caption said, "This is Minji's mom, working a minimum wage job while her daughter pretends to be smart." The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Poor and desperate, that was the final straw. Attacking Minji was one thing, but attacking her mother, the woman who worked 16 hours a day to give Minji a better life, that was unforgivable. Minji stood up and ran to the bathroom. She locked herself in a stall and cried. She had never felt so helpless. Someone was systematically destroying her reputation and her family's dignity, and nobody would help her. She stayed in the bathroom until lunch ended. When she finally came out, her eyes were red and puffy. She washed her face with cold water and looked at herself in the mirror. She barely recognized the girl looking back. She looked broken, defeated. But somewhere deep inside, a spark of anger was growing. This wasn't right. This wasn't fair. And whoever was doing this needed to be stopped. She just had no idea how to stop them. She had no proof of who was behind the account. She had no support from teachers. She felt completely powerless. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Minji went to her classes but couldn't focus. She heard whispers everywhere, saw students looking at their phones and then at her, felt the weight of their judgment and mockery. When school finally ended, she went to the library like always. But instead of studying, she sat and stared at her phone. The fake account had posted 2 more times. It was relentless, cruel, calculated. And somewhere in the back of her mind, she kept thinking about Mrs. Crawford's reaction. The way she had dismissed Minji's concern so quickly. The way she kept looking at her phone during class. The way the account's language matched her teacher's words. It couldn't be, could it? A teacher wouldn't do this. But the doubt was there, growing stronger with each cruel post. 3 days had passed since the fake account appeared. Each day brought new posts. Each day brought more humiliation. Minji stopped eating lunch in the cafeteria. She stopped making eye contact with other students. She stopped raising her hand in class even when she knew the answers. The posts were getting worse. Someone had edited photos of her, making her look ridiculous. They posted screenshots of old text messages from her study group, taking them out of context to make her look bad. They shared private information about her family's financial struggles, information that very few people could have known. Minji had stopped sleeping properly. She had dark circles under her eyes. Her grades were starting to slip. In math class, she failed a quiz for the first time in her life. She just couldn't concentrate. Her mind was always on the account, wondering when the next attack would come. Her mother had noticed something was wrong. "Minji, you're not eating. You're not sleeping. Please tell me what's happening." But Minji still didn't want to worry her. "I'm fine, Mom, just stressed about school." On Thursday morning, Jasmine Rodriguez was sitting in Mrs. Crawford's first period class. Minji hadn't arrived yet, which was unusual. Minji was always early. Jasmine was worried about her friend. She had tried to help, telling other students to stop sharing the posts, reporting the account herself. But nothing worked. Mrs. Crawford was at her desk typing on her computer. She looked relaxed and happy. Jasmine thought it was strange. A student in her class was being cyberbullied, and the teacher seemed completely unconcerned. About 5 minutes into class, Mrs. Crawford announced, "I need to step out for a moment. Read chapter 12 in your textbooks." Quietly, she left the classroom, leaving her phone on the desk. Jasmine watched as other students opened their textbooks and started reading. But something made her get up. She wasn't sure why. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was the way Mrs. Crawford had been acting lately. Jasmine walked to the front of the room, pretending to sharpen her pencil at the sharpener near the teacher's desk. As she walked past, she glanced at Mrs. Crawford's phone. The screen was still on, and what she saw made her blood run cold. The phone was open to a social media app, but it wasn't Mrs. Crawford's regular account. It was the Truth Teller 2024 account, the one that had been leaving the cruelest comments on the fake Minji Kim account. And there was a draft post ready to be published. It showed a photo of Minji from yesterday, looking exhausted and defeated. The caption read, "When you realize being poor isn't cute, maybe time to drop out and get a real job like your mom." Jasmine's hand was shaking, but she quickly pulled out her own phone. She took a photo of Mrs. Crawford's phone screen, making sure to capture the account name, the draft post, and the fact that it was on the teacher's device. She took 3 photos from slightly different angles to make sure at least one was clear. She rushed back to her seat just as Mrs. Crawford returned to the classroom. Jasmine's heart was pounding. She had evidence. Actual proof that a teacher was behind the harassment. She could barely believe it herself. How could a grown woman, an educator, do something so cruel to a student? After class ended, Jasmine looked for Minji. She found her in the hallway, walking slowly with her head down. Minji looked terrible. She had lost weight. Her eyes were hollow. "Minji, wait," Jasmine called out. Minji stopped and turned. "Hey, Jasmine, I need to talk to you." Somewhere private. They went to the empty music room. Jasmine locked the door behind them and turned to face her friend. "I know who's behind the fake account," Jasmine said. Minji looked up, hope flickering in her eyes for the first time in days. "What, who? You're not going to believe this." "I barely believe it myself." Jasmine took a deep breath. "It's Mrs. Crawford." Minji's face went pale. "What? No, that can't be right. I saw her phone during class. She left it on her desk when she went out. It was open to the Truth Teller account, the one that leaves all those horrible comments. She had a draft post ready to publish about you." "Are you sure? Maybe you misread it." Jasmine pulled out her phone and showed Minji the photos she had taken. Minji stared at the screen, her hands covering her mouth. The evidence was right there, clear, undeniable. Her teacher had been tormenting her for days. Why? Minji whispered. "Why would she do this?" "I don't know," Jasmine said. "But we have proof now. You need to tell someone. Your mom, the principal, the police." "This is serious." Minji felt dizzy. She sat down on one of the chairs. All this time, she had wondered who hated her so much. She had suspected other students. She had thought maybe it was someone jealous of her grades. But her own teacher? The person who was supposed to educate and protect her? She told me I was being too sensitive, Minji said quietly. When I asked her for help, she said it was teenage drama. She knew the whole time because she was the one doing it. Jasmine sat down next to her. This is sick. She's an adult. A teacher. She should be fired. She should go to jail. Minji looked at the photos again. Something occurred to her. Look at the timestamp. These posts were made during school hours, during times when we were in class, but she had free periods. You're right, Jasmine said. We should make a timeline. Match up when posts were made with when Mrs. Crawford wasn't teaching. They spent the next 20 minutes going through the fake accounts posts. Jasmine wrote down the date and time of each one. Minji checked her class schedule and Mrs. Crawford's schedule, which was posted on the school website. The pattern was clear. Posts appeared during Mrs. Crawford's free periods. Posts appeared in the evenings after school. Posts appeared on weekends, but never during the times when Mrs. Crawford was actively teaching a class. This is enough evidence, Jasmine said. You have to show this to someone today. Minji nodded slowly. I need to tell my mom first. That evening, Minji came home to find her mother already there. It was unusual. Her mom's shift at the convenience store didn't end until 11. But Mrs. Soo-jin Kim had asked to leave early because she was worried about her daughter. Minji, sit down, her mother said in Korean. Tell me what's really happening. And don't say it's nothing. I can see something is very wrong. Minji broke down. She told her mother everything. About the fake account. About the cruel posts. About Mrs. Crawford's dismissal of her concerns. And finally about Jasmine's discovery and the proof they now had. Her mother's face went through several emotions. Shock, anger, disbelief. And finally, determination. Show me everything, Mrs. Soo-jin Kim said. Minji showed her mother the fake account on her phone. She showed her all the posts, all the comments, all the shares. She showed her the photos Jasmine had taken of Mrs. Crawford's phone. She showed her the timeline they had created. Mrs. Soo-jin Kim's hands were shaking with rage. A teacher did this to my daughter? A person we trusted to educate you? Mom, I'm scared, Minji admitted. What if no one believes us? What if they say we faked the photos? Mrs. Crawford has been at this school for 15 years. People trust her. I don't care how long she's been there, her mother said firmly. What she did is wrong. It's cruel. It's probably illegal. And we're going to stop her. What do we do? First, we print everything. Every post. Every comment. Every piece of evidence. We make copies. Then tomorrow, we go to the principal. And if he doesn't help us, we go to the superintendent. And if that doesn't work, we go to the police and the newspapers. This teacher will not get away with torturing my daughter. Minji had never seen her mother so angry, but she also felt something she hadn't felt in days. Hope. She wasn't alone anymore. Someone believed her. Someone was going to fight for her. They spent the next 3 hours at the local print shop. They printed every screenshot. They printed Jasmine's photos. They printed the timeline. They created a detailed document explaining everything that had happened, with dates and evidence. They made 3 copies of everything. We need Jasmine's statement too, Mrs. Soo-jin Kim said. Can you call her? Minji called Jasmine and explained. Jasmine agreed immediately. I'll write down exactly what I saw. My parents will sign it too. They're going to be so angry when I tell them. That night, Minji finally slept. Not peacefully, but better than she had in days. Tomorrow would be hard. Tomorrow she would have to face the principal and accuse her teacher of cyberbullying. Tomorrow she would have to relive all the pain and humiliation. But at least tomorrow someone would listen. The next morning, Mrs. Soo-jin Kim took the day off from both her jobs. She dressed in her best clothes, a simple black dress she usually saved for important occasions. Minji wore her nicest outfit. They both wanted to look professional and serious. They arrived at school at 7:30, 30 minutes before classes started. They went straight to the principal's office. Principal David Martinez was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had been principal for 5 years and had a reputation for being fair but strict. His secretary told them he was in a meeting but would be free in 10 minutes. They sat in the waiting area, their folder of evidence on Mrs. Soo-jin Kim's lap. Other students walked past, staring at them curiously. The secretary kept glancing at them, probably wondering why a parent was there so early with such a serious expression. Finally, the door opened. Principal Martinez stepped out with Coach Johnson, the football coach. They finished their conversation and the coach left. Principal Martinez turned to them. "Good morning. How can I help you?" "My name is Soo-Jin Kim. This is my daughter Minji. We need to speak with you urgently about a serious matter involving a teacher at this school." Principal Martinez's expression became more serious. "Please come into my office." They followed him inside. The office was neat and organized, with diplomas on the walls and photos of sports teams and student events. Principal Martinez sat behind his desk and gestured for them to sit in the chairs across from him. "What seems to be the problem?" Mrs. Soo-Jin Kim opened the folder. "My daughter has been the victim of cyberbullying for the past week. Someone created a fake social media account impersonating her. This person has posted cruel and humiliating content about Minji and our family. The posts have been shared throughout the school. It has affected my daughter's mental health, her sleep, and her academic performance." Principal Martinez nodded, his expression concerned. "I'm sorry to hear that. Cyberbullying is a serious issue. Have you reported this account to the social media platform?" "Yes, but that's not why we're here," Mrs. Soo-Jin Kim continued. "We're here because we have evidence that the person behind this harassment is Mrs. Patricia Crawford, my daughter's English teacher." The principal's expression changed. He looked shocked, then skeptical. "That's a very serious accusation. Mrs. Crawford is a veteran teacher with an excellent record." "I know how it sounds," Mrs. Soo-Jin Kim said calmly. "That's why we brought evidence." She began laying out the papers on his desk. The printed posts, the screenshots, the timeline, and finally, Jasmine's photos of Mrs. Crawford's phone along with her written statement. Principal Martinez leaned forward, studying each piece of evidence carefully. His expression grew darker as he read through the posts and saw their cruelty. When he reached the photos of Mrs. Crawford's phone, he sat back in his chair, looking troubled. Principal Martinez studied the photos for a long time. He picked up each page, examined it closely, and set it down carefully. His jaw was tight. His expression had shifted from skeptical to deeply troubled. "These photos," he said slowly. "This student, Jasmine Rodriguez, she took these during class?" "Yes, sir," Minji spoke for the first time. Her voice was quiet but steady. Mrs. Crawford left the room. She left her phone on the desk. Jasmine saw the screen was still on and took photos before Mrs. Crawford came back. "And Mrs. Crawford didn't notice?" "No, sir." Jasmine was very quick. Principal Martinez looked at Mrs. Soo-Jin Kim. "You understand that this is an extremely serious accusation. If true, this would not only be grounds for termination but potentially criminal charges. But I need to be absolutely certain before I take action. These photos could be manipulated. The timeline could be coincidental." "I understand your caution," Mrs. Soo-Jin Kim said, "but look at the language in these posts. Look at the comments from the Truth Teller account. Compare them to things Mrs. Crawford has said to my daughter in class. Other students can confirm that she made comments about Minji's supplies, her clothes, and our family's financial situation." Principal Martinez nodded slowly. "I'll need to interview witnesses. I'll need to examine Mrs. Crawford's devices, and I'll need to contact our district's technology department to trace these accounts." "Will this be done quickly?" Mrs. Soo-Jin Kim asked. "Every day that passes, my daughter suffers more. New posts appear. More students see them. The damage continues." "I understand," Principal Martinez said. He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the school grounds. Students were starting to arrive for the day. "I want you to know that I take this very seriously. If a teacher at this school is harassing a student, that teacher will face consequences. But I must follow proper procedures. I'll need to place Mrs. Crawford on administrative leave while we investigate." "What does that mean?" Minji asked. "It means she won't be teaching while we look into this matter. She'll stay home with pay until we complete the investigation. If we find evidence that supports your claims, she'll be suspended without pay and face disciplinary action." "And if you don't find evidence?" Mrs. Soo-Jin Kim asked. "Then she'll return to her position, and we'll continue to search for whoever is actually responsible for this harassment." Principal Martinez turned back to face them. "But I have a feeling that won't be necessary. These photos are very concerning, and the pattern you've documented is troubling." He sat back down at his desk and opened his computer. "I'm going to make several calls right now. First to the district superintendent, then to our technology department, then to the school's lawyer. This will take most of the day to set up properly. In the meantime, Minji, you're excused from Mrs. Crawford's class. You can go to the library during that period. Thank you, Minji said quietly. I want to be clear about something, Principal Martinez continued, looking directly at Minji. If what you're telling me is true, then this school failed you. I failed you. You came to a teacher for help, and that teacher was the one hurting you. That's unacceptable. And I'm sorry. Minji felt tears forming in her eyes. It was the first time any adult at the school had apologized to her or acknowledged her pain. We'll need Jasmine Rodriguez to give an official statement, the principal said. I'll call her parents and arrange a meeting for this afternoon. We'll also need to interview other students who witnessed Mrs. Crawford's comments in class. There are many witnesses, Minji said. She said these things in front of the whole class. Good. That will help our investigation. Principal Martinez made a note on a pad of paper. Mrs. Kim, I'll need your contact information. I'll be calling you with updates throughout the day. Mrs. Sujin Kim wrote down her phone number and email address. I want to know everything that happens. This is my daughter's future and well-being we're talking about. I understand completely. You'll hear from me by this afternoon at the latest. He stood up and shook both of their hands. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. I know it took courage. As they left the office, Minji felt lighter than she had in days. Someone in authority was taking her seriously. Someone was going to investigate. Someone was going to hold Mrs. Crawford accountable. Her mother hugged her in the hallway. You don't have to stay at school today if you don't want to. We can go home. No, Minji said. I want to stay. I want to show everyone that I'm not hiding. I didn't do anything wrong. Mrs. Sujin Kim smiled, pride shining in her tired eyes. That's my strong daughter. I have to go to work now, but call me if you need anything. Anything at all. I will, Mom. Thank you. After her mother left, Minji went to her locker. She saw Jasmine waiting there, looking anxious. Did you talk to the principal? Jasmine asked immediately. Yes, he's going to investigate. He wants to talk to you too, probably this afternoon. Good, I'm ready. My parents are so angry. They couldn't believe a teacher would do something like this. Jasmine paused. How are you feeling? Scared, hopeful, I don't know. It's weird. But at least something is happening now. Mrs. Crawford is going to be so mad when she finds out. She should be scared, not mad, Minji said. She's the one who did something wrong. The first period bell rang. Students rushed to their classes. Minji went to the library as Principal Martinez had instructed. She sat at a table near the back and tried to focus on her homework. But her mind kept wandering. What was happening in Mrs. Crawford's classroom right now? Did the teacher know she was being investigated? Was she scared? Meanwhile, in the administrative wing, Principal Martinez was making calls. His first call was to the district superintendent, Dr. Elizabeth Chen. David, good morning. What can I do for you? Elizabeth, I have a serious situation. One of our teachers is accused of cyberbullying a student. I have substantial evidence, including photos and witness statements. I need to place the teacher on administrative leave immediately while we investigate. There was a pause on the other end. Cyberbullying? A teacher? Yes, Patricia Crawford. She's been here 15 years. My God, what kind of evidence do we have? Principal Martinez explained everything. The fake account. The posts. The timeline. Jasmine's photos. When he finished, Dr. Chen was silent for a moment. This is extremely serious, she said finally. If this is true, we're looking at termination and possible criminal charges. But we need to be absolutely certain. I'm sending our legal team and IT specialist to your school today. They'll need to examine all the evidence and interview witnesses. I understand. I wanted to inform you before I spoke with Mrs. Crawford. Good. Don't speak with her yet. Let me get the team assembled first. We should be there by 10 o'clock. In the meantime, compile a list of all witnesses and have the students' evidence ready for review. Will do. The next call was to the district's IT department. The lead technician, Marcus Webb, answered. Marcus, I need your help with a cyberbullying investigation. We need to trace some social media accounts and potentially examine a teacher's personal devices. What are we looking for? Principal Martinez explained the situation. Marcus listened carefully, occasionally asking technical questions. Okay, I can definitely help with this. If she used her personal phone or computer, we can check IP addresses and login locations. Social media platforms keep logs of where accounts are accessed from. If she was posting from school Wi-Fi or her home internet, we can prove it. How long will that take? A few days for a complete analysis. But I can give you preliminary findings by end of business today if you can get me access to her devices and the account information. The district lawyer is coming at 10. We'll coordinate with them about getting access to her devices. Sounds good. I'll head over to the school now and set up. Principal Martinez's next call was to Mrs. Crawford herself. He kept his voice neutral and professional. Patricia, this is David Martinez. I need you to come to my office immediately, please. I'm in the middle of second period, Mrs. Crawford said. Can this wait until my free period? No, it can't. Please ask Mr. Thompson to cover your class. This is urgent. Is something wrong? We'll discuss it when you get here. He hung up before she could ask more questions. Then he called the school counselor, Mrs. Anderson, to his office. I need you to be present for a meeting with Mrs. Crawford. It's a sensitive matter, and I want a witness. Mrs. Anderson arrived within minutes. Principal Martinez briefly explained the situation. Her eyes widened in shock. Patty Crawford? I can't believe it. She's always seemed so professional. That's why we need to investigate carefully. But the evidence is compelling. A few minutes later, Mrs. Crawford knocked on the door. She entered, looking slightly annoyed at being pulled from her class. But when she saw Mrs. Anderson sitting there with a serious expression, her confidence faltered. What's this about, David? Mrs. Crawford asked, trying to sound casual. Please sit down, Patricia. She sat, her hands folded in her lap. Principal Martinez could see her tension in the way she held herself. Patricia, we've received a complaint about your conduct toward a student, specifically Minji Kim. Mrs. Crawford's face went pale for just a moment. Then she recovered. Minji Kim? What kind of complaint? We have evidence that suggests you may be involved in cyberbullying her through fake social media accounts. That's absurd. Mrs. Crawford said, standing up. I would never do such a thing. This is obviously a false accusation. That girl has always been sensitive and difficult. If she's being bullied, it has nothing to do with me. Please sit down, Principal Martinez said firmly. We have photos of your phone screen showing one of the accounts in question open on your device. We have a timeline that matches posts to your free periods. We have witnesses who say your classroom comments match the language used in the posts. Mrs. Crawford sat back down slowly. Her face was now completely white. Whoever took photos of my phone was violating my privacy. That's probably illegal. What's illegal is an adult in a position of authority using that position to harass and humiliate a minor, Principal Martinez said, his voice hard. Patricia, I'm placing you on administrative leave effective immediately. You'll go home and wait while we conduct a full investigation. The district's legal team and IT specialists will be here shortly. They'll need to examine your personal devices. You can't make me give you my personal phone, Mrs. Crawford said. You're right. We can't force you, but we can subpoena your devices and your internet service provider's records. We can work with the social media platforms to trace the accounts. Refusing to cooperate will only make you look guilty. Mrs. Crawford stood up again. I want to call my lawyer. That's your right. But you need to leave campus now. Gather your personal belongings from your classroom. You're not to contact any students or staff about this matter. If you do, it will be considered obstruction of the investigation. Mrs. Crawford's hands were shaking. She looked at Mrs. Anderson as if hoping for support, but the counselor just looked away. This is a mistake, Mrs. Crawford said. I've worked here for 15 years. I've never had a single complaint. And you're going to believe some poor girl with a victim complex over me? The evidence speaks for itself, Principal Martinez said coldly. Mrs. Anderson will escort you to your classroom to collect your things. Then you'll leave campus immediately. Mrs. Crawford left the office with Mrs. Anderson, her professional composure finally cracking. As soon as they were gone, Principal Martinez sat back in his chair and rubbed his temples. This was going to be a nightmare. The news would spread through the school instantly. Parents would call demanding answers. The media might get involved. But none of that mattered as much as stopping the harm being done to Minji Kim. By lunchtime, the entire school knew that Mrs. Crawford had been escorted off campus. Rumors spread like wildfire. Students whispered in hallways and texted frantically. Some said she had been arrested. Others said she had quit. Very few people knew the real reason. Minji sat in the library trying to ignore the buzzing of her phone. Students were texting her, asking what had happened. Some were supportive. Others were accusatory, saying she must have lied to get Mrs. Crawford in trouble. She didn't respond to any of them. Jasmine found her during lunch period. My parents are coming at 2 o'clock to meet with Principal Martinez. They want to give their support and let me make an official statement. Are you nervous? Minji asked, a little. But mostly I'm angry. When I told my parents what I saw on her phone, my dad almost drove to her house right then. My mom had to calm him down. I'm sorry I got you involved in this. Don't apologize. I'm glad I could help. What Mrs. Crawford did was evil. She deserves whatever happens to her. At 2 o'clock, the conference room next to the principal's office was full. Principal Martinez sat at the head of the table. Next to him were 2 lawyers from the school district, Dr. Elizabeth Chen, the superintendent, and Marcus Webb from the IT department. Across from them sat Jasmine and her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Rodriguez. Thank you for coming, Principal Martinez began. Jasmine, we need you to tell us exactly what you saw yesterday morning in Mrs. Crawford's classroom. Jasmine took a deep breath and told her story. She explained how Mrs. Crawford had left the room, how she had noticed the phone on the desk, how she had seen the screen was still on and showing the truth teller account, how she had quickly taken photos before the teacher returned. And you're certain it was the same account that had been posting cruel comments about Minji Kim? One of the lawyers asked. Yes, ma'am. I had seen those comments many times. I recognized the username immediately, and there was a draft post ready to publish, another mean message about Minji. Did Mrs. Crawford see you take the photos? No, she came back right after I sat down. She didn't suspect anything. Marcus Webb pulled up his laptop. I've been analyzing the fake accounts in question. The real Minji Kim impersonation account and the Truth Teller 2024 commenting account. Both were created from the same IP address. He turned the screen so everyone could see. This IP address belongs to Patricia Crawford's home internet service. I contacted the provider with a court order this morning. They confirmed it's her residential address. What about posts made during school hours? Dr. Chen asked. Those came from the school's Wi-Fi network. Specifically, they were posted from devices that logged into the network using Mrs. Crawford's employee credentials. So she was posting during her free periods at school, Principal Martinez said. Correct. And here's something else interesting. Marcus clicked to another screen. The editing app used to manipulate photos of Minji Kim was downloaded on a device registered to Patricia Crawford. The app's login credentials match email addresses associated with her. The edited photos were created on that device before being uploaded to the fake account. The evidence was overwhelming. One of the lawyers shook her head in disbelief. In 20 years of education law, I've never seen a case quite like this. A teacher cyberbullying their own student. What happens now? Mr. Rodriguez asked. Will she be fired? First, we complete the investigation, Dr. Chen said. We need to interview more witnesses. We need to document everything. But based on what we're seeing so far, yes, termination is almost certain, and we'll be recommending criminal charges. Criminal charges? Mrs. Rodriguez looked satisfied. Good. She should face real consequences. Cyberbullying a minor is a crime in this state, the lawyer explained, especially when it involves harassment, impersonation, and emotional distress. Add to that the fact that she was in a position of authority over the victim, and the charges become more serious. What about the other students who shared the posts? Jasmine asked. Are they in trouble too? That's complicated, Principal Martinez said. Most students didn't know the posts were created by a teacher. They thought it was just typical teenage drama. However, we'll be addressing the issue of cyberbullying school-wide. Students need to understand that sharing cruel content makes them part of the problem. The meeting continued for another hour. They reviewed all the evidence, took Jasmine's formal statement, and discussed the next steps. When it was over, Jasmine felt exhausted but relieved. You did a brave thing, Dr. Chen told her, speaking up when you saw something wrong. That took courage. I just did what anyone should do, Jasmine said. That evening, Principal Martinez called Mrs. Sujin Kim with an update. Mrs. Kim, I want you to know that our investigation is progressing quickly. The evidence against Mrs. Crawford is substantial. We have digital forensics showing she created and managed the fake accounts. We have witness statements. We have her own device records. So she really did this, Mrs. Sujin Kim said. She was sitting at her kitchen table with Minji beside her, the phone on speaker. Yes, I'm very sorry that this happened to your daughter under our watch. The district will be meeting tomorrow to formally terminate Mrs. Crawford's employment. We'll also be filing a report with local law enforcement. Will there be a trial? Minji asked. Possibly. That will be up to the district attorney's office. They'll review the evidence and decide what charges to file. But even without a trial, Mrs. Crawford will never teach again. We're revoking her teaching license. What about the fake accounts? Mrs. Sujin Kim asked. They're still online. Students can still see them. We've been working with the social media platforms. Both accounts will be removed by tomorrow morning. We're also going to make an announcement at school explaining that the accounts were created by someone who has been removed from campus. We won't name Mrs. Crawford publicly to avoid legal issues, but students will understand that Minji was the victim, not the perpetrator. After the call ended, Minji sat quietly for a moment. It's really over, she said. The investigation isn't completely finished, her mother reminded her. But yes, the worst part is over. That woman can't hurt you anymore. I still don't understand why she did it. What did I ever do to her? Some people are cruel, Minji. Some people see others struggling and instead of helping, they make it worse. Mrs. Crawford saw that we don't have much money, and she looked down on us. She saw you working hard despite our situation, and maybe that made her feel bad about herself. Or maybe she's just a bully who finally got caught. The next day at school, Principal Martinez called an emergency assembly. The entire student body gathered in the auditorium. Rumors had been flying for 2 days and everyone wanted to know what was happening. Principal Martinez stood at the podium, his expression serious. I'm here to address a serious situation that has affected our school community. A student was targeted by cyberbullying through fake social media accounts. These accounts posted cruel and false information. Many of you saw these posts. Some of you shared them. The auditorium was silent. Students looked at each other nervously. What you didn't know is that these accounts were not created by a student. They were created by an adult who violated their position of trust. That person has been removed from campus permanently and is facing serious consequences for their actions. Whispers spread through the crowd. Students were putting the pieces together. The student who was targeted did nothing wrong. She was the victim of harassment by someone who should have been protecting her. I want to be very clear about this. If you participated in spreading these posts, you hurt an innocent person. If you laughed at these posts, you contributed to her pain. If you stayed silent when you could have spoken up, you let bullying continue. Principal Martinez paused, letting his words sink in. Moving forward, we're implementing new policies. First, mandatory training on cyberbullying for all students and staff. Second, a new anonymous reporting system where you can report harassment without fear. Third, counseling services for anyone who has been affected by cyberbullying. And fourth, serious consequences for anyone caught participating in online harassment of their peers. We're also establishing a peer support program. Students who want to help create a kinder school environment can volunteer. We're going to make sure that what happened to this student never happens again. After the assembly, something surprising happened. Students started approaching Minji in the hallways. Some apologized for sharing the posts. Others offered words of support. A few admitted they had been too scared to defend her before, but promised to do better. Emma Park, a girl from Minji's history class, stopped her near the lockers. Minji, I'm so sorry. I saw those posts and I knew they were mean, but I didn't say anything. I should have stood up for you. It's okay, Minji said. No, it's not okay. I was a coward. But I want you to know that I'm glad you're okay. And if anyone ever tries to mess with you again, I'll speak up. Similar conversations happened throughout the day. Not everyone apologized. Some students still avoided her, probably feeling embarrassed about their role in spreading the posts. But the overall atmosphere had changed. People looked at her with sympathy now instead of judgment. 3 days later, Detective Sarah Morrison from the local police department arrived at the school. She interviewed Minji, Jasmine, and several other witnesses. She reviewed all the evidence that the school had collected. This is one of the clearest cases of cyberbullying I've seen, Detective Morrison told Principal Martinez. Usually these cases are hard to prove because the perpetrator uses VPNs and covers their tracks. But Mrs. Crawford was either overconfident or didn't understand technology. She left a digital trail a mile wide. What charges will she face? The DA is considering several charges: cyberbullying of a minor, criminal harassment, possibly identity theft for creating the fake account. She could face up to 2 years in prison if convicted on all counts. Do you think she'll plead guilty? Most likely. The evidence is overwhelming. Her lawyer will probably advise her to take a plea deal to avoid a trial. That prediction proved correct. 2 weeks later, Mrs. Crawford's lawyer contacted the district attorney's office. Mrs. Crawford was willing to plead guilty to cyberbullying and harassment charges in exchange for a reduced sentence. She would serve 6 months in jail, 3 years of probation, and would be permanently banned from working in education or with children in any capacity. The news spread quickly. Some people thought the punishment was too light. Others thought it was appropriate. But everyone agreed on one thing. It sent a clear message that adults who abuse their positions of authority will face serious consequences. For Minji, the resolution brought mixed feelings. She was glad that Mrs. Crawford was being punished. She was relieved that the harassment had stopped. But she also felt sad that things had gone so far. She had trusted teachers to protect her. Now she knew that not all adults could be trusted. It's okay to feel conflicted, the school counselor told her during one of their sessions. You can be glad it's over while also feeling hurt by what happened. Those feelings can exist together. Minji started sleeping better. Her grades began to improve again. She smiled more. But she also became more cautious, more aware of how people treated her and others. She noticed when students were being left out or picked on. And now she spoke up. One afternoon she saw a new student eating lunch alone. The girl looked uncomfortable and out of place. Minji remembered how that felt. She walked over and sat down. "Hi, I'm Minji. Is it okay if I sit here?" The new student looked up surprised. Sure. I'm Hana. How do you like the school so far?" "It's okay. Kind of overwhelming." "I know the feeling," Minji said. "Want to join my friends and me tomorrow?" "We sit by the window." Hana's face lit up. "Really? That would be great." As Minji walked away later, Jasmine caught up with her. "Making new friends?" She looked lonely. "Nobody should eat lunch alone." "You're a good person, Minji Kim." Minji smiled. She had survived something terrible. She had faced down a bully who had power over her. She had found her voice and fought back. And now she was using her experience to help others. The fake accounts were gone. The cruel posts were deleted. Mrs. Crawford was facing justice. But the impact of what happened would stay with Minji forever. She would never forget the pain. But she would also never forget the people who helped her. The friend who took photos when it mattered. The mother who fought for her. The principal who listened. The system that eventually worked. She was stronger now. Scarred but stronger. And she was determined to use that strength to make sure no one else had to go through what she had endured. 6 months had passed since Mrs. Crawford was removed from school. The trial had been brief. She had accepted the plea deal, admitting to cyberbullying and harassment. The local news had covered the story, and it had sparked conversations about teacher accountability across the entire state. Minji stood in front of her bathroom mirror, getting ready for an important day. She was wearing a new dress that her mother had bought for her. It was simple but nice, dark blue with a white collar. Today she would speak at the school board meeting about her experience and the changes that needed to happen in schools everywhere. Her mother appeared in the doorway. "You look beautiful, my daughter. Are you nervous?" "A little," Minji admitted. "But I know what I want to say. You've practiced enough. You'll do wonderfully." They ate breakfast together, rice and eggs and kimchi. Mrs. Sujin Kim had recently started a new day job at an office, filing paperwork and answering phones. It paid better than the laundromat, and she only needed one job now. She was sleeping more. The dark circles under her eyes had faded. "Mom, I've been thinking," Minji said. "After I graduate, maybe I should work for a year before college." "Save money? Help you?" Her mother shook her head firmly. "No, you go to college right away. You have good grades. You'll get scholarships. We'll make it work. But the expenses are my responsibility, not yours. Your job is to study and build your future. My job is to support you. That's what mothers do." Minji reached across the table and squeezed her mother's hand. They had always been close, but the experience with Mrs. Crawford had brought them even closer. They were a team. They took care of each other. At school, Minji walked through the halls with her head held high. Students greeted her warmly. Some had become real friends over the past 6 months. Others just respected her for surviving what she had been through. Jasmine met her at her locker. "Ready for tonight?" "I think so. Are you coming to the board meeting?" "Obviously. I wouldn't miss it. Plus, my parents want to be there. They're really proud of you, you know? We all are." In the months since the investigation, the school had changed in noticeable ways. The new anonymous reporting system had been installed, with posters in every hallway explaining how to use it. 3 students had already used it to report bullying, and each case had been handled quickly and fairly. The peer support program had launched with 20 student volunteers, including Jasmine and Minji. They wore special badges and were trained to help students who were struggling. They organized lunch groups for students who ate alone. They tutored kids who were falling behind. They listened to anyone who needed someone to talk to. Principal Martinez had kept his promise about mandatory training. Every student and staff member had attended a 3-hour workshop on cyberbullying, its effects, and how to prevent it. Some students complained about giving up a Saturday for the training, but most found it eye-opening. I didn't realize how much damage words online could do, Marcus from Minji's math class had said after the training. I used to think it was just jokes, but hearing actual victims talk about it made me understand. The school had also brought in guest speakers, people who had survived cyberbullying and could share their stories. One woman talked about being harassed by her coworkers at age 25. A man talked about being targeted in high school and how it had affected his self-esteem for years. Their stories helped students understand that bullying wasn't just a teenage problem. It could happen to anyone. Mrs. Crawford's replacement was a young teacher named Mr. Kim, no relation to Minji. He was enthusiastic and kind, always asking students how they were doing. His first day, he had made a point of introducing himself to Minji personally. "I've heard about what you went through," he had said. "I want you to know that my classroom is a safe space. If you ever need anything or if anyone makes you uncomfortable, you come to me immediately. Thank you, Mr. Kim. And I want to learn from what happened. I never want any student to feel the way you felt. So if you have suggestions about how I can be a better teacher, I'm listening." Minji had appreciated his honesty and openness. In the months since, he had proven himself to be everything Mrs. Crawford wasn't. He treated all students with respect, regardless of their background. He never made comments about students' clothes or belongings. He focused on their work and their potential. At lunch, Minji sat with her usual group. Besides Jasmine, there was Emma Park, who had apologized months ago and had become a good friend. There was Marcus, who now volunteered for the peer support program. And there was Hana, the new student Minji had befriended who turned out to be funny and creative. "Are you going to mention Mrs. Crawford by name tonight?" Emma asked. "No," Minji said. "The lawyer said I shouldn't, but everyone knows who I'm talking about anyway." "What are you going to say?" Hana asked. Minji pulled out her notes. She had written and rewritten her speech dozens of times. "I'm going to talk about what happened to me, how it felt, what warning signs were there that adults missed. And then I'm going to talk about the changes that need to happen not just here, but in all schools." "Like what?" Marcus asked. "Better training for teachers about their own biases. More accountability when teachers cross the line. Stronger protection for students who report problems. And consequences for students who participate in bullying, even if they didn't start it." "That's good," Jasmine said. "Really good." That evening, the school board meeting room was packed. Board members sat at a long table at the front. In the audience were parents, teachers, students, reporters, and concerned community members. The case had attracted attention beyond just their school district. Principal Martinez was there, sitting in the front row. Detective Morrison was there too, in plain clothes. The district superintendent, Dr. Chen, sat with the board members. And in the third row, Mrs. Sujin Kim sat between Jasmine's parents, looking nervous but proud. The board handled routine business first. Budget reports, policy updates, approval of new textbooks. Minji waited patiently, going over her speech in her mind. Finally, the board president, Mrs. Washington, looked up. "Our next item is a presentation from Minji Kim, a junior at Central High School. She'll be speaking about her experience with cyberbullying and recommendations for policy changes. Miss Kim, please come forward." Minji stood and walked to the microphone. Her legs felt shaky, but she forced herself to stand straight. She looked at her mother, who nodded encouragingly. Then she looked at the board members and began to speak. "Good evening. My name is Minji Kim. I'm 16 years old. 6 months ago, I was the victim of cyberbullying by a teacher at my school. Tonight, I want to tell you what happened, how it affected me, and what we need to do to prevent it from happening to other students." The room was completely silent. Everyone was listening. It started small. Comments in class about my clothes, my school supplies, my family's financial situation. Each comment by itself seemed minor, but together, they created an atmosphere where I felt unwelcome and judged. I thought maybe I was being too sensitive. Teachers are supposed to help us, not hurt us. So I stayed quiet. Minji took a breath and continued. Then the cyberbullying started. Someone created a fake account using my name and photos. They posted cruel things about me and my family. They shared private information about our financial struggles. They edited photos to make me look foolish. Other students shared the posts. Some laughed. Some felt bad but didn't speak up. I felt completely alone. She saw several people in the audience nodding. Some looked angry on her behalf. When I asked my teacher for help, she dismissed my concerns. She said I was being too sensitive. She told me to develop thicker skin. What I didn't know was that she was the one doing it. She was the person I had trusted to help me, and she was the one tormenting me. A woman in the audience gasped, even though the story had been reported in the news. Hearing it directly from Minji made it more powerful. The harassment affected everything. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. My grades dropped for the first time in my life. I became withdrawn and depressed. I felt worthless and alone. If it hadn't been for my friend Jasmine, who discovered evidence against the teacher, and my mother, who fought for me when I had no strength left to fight, I don't know what would have happened to me. Minji looked directly at the board members. But here's what I want you to understand. This could have been prevented. There were warning signs that were ignored. Other students witnessed the teacher's comments but didn't report them because they didn't think anyone would believe them. I reported the bullying to the teacher herself, not knowing she was responsible, but even if it had been another student, she dismissed my concerns without investigating. She glanced at her notes and continued, "We need better systems. We need training for teachers, not just about how to stop bullying, but about how their own behavior might contribute to it. We need to teach teachers to recognize their biases against students from different backgrounds. We need accountability when teachers cross professional boundaries. We also need to empower students. The anonymous reporting system that was installed here is good, but it needs to exist in every school. Students need to know that their voices matter and that adults will take them seriously. And students need to understand that staying silent when they witness bullying makes them part of the problem." Minji's voice grew stronger as she spoke. "I also want to talk about consequences. The teacher who bullied me faced criminal charges. She went to jail. She can never teach again. That's appropriate, but what about the students who shared her cruel posts? What about the ones who commented with laughing emojis? What about the ones who stayed silent when they could have spoken up? I'm not saying they should go to jail. They're kids. But they need to understand the impact of their actions. We need education about digital citizenship. We need to teach empathy. We need to create a culture where standing up for someone is valued more than fitting in with the crowd." She paused and looked around the room. 6 months ago, I was broken. I felt like my life was over. But this school and this district made changes. They listened. They investigated. They took action. Principal Martinez apologized to me personally. New policies were created. Training was mandated, and it made a difference. But these changes can't just happen here. They need to happen everywhere. Every school in this district, every school in this state, every school in this country. Because what happened to me is happening to students everywhere, every day. Some of them don't have a friend like Jasmine who will take photos of evidence. Some of them don't have a mother who will fight for them. Some of them don't have a principal who will listen. And those students continue to suffer in silence. Minji's eyes were shining with unshed tears, but her voice remained steady. "I'm going to be okay. I'm stronger now. I have support. I have hope. But I think about all the students who aren't okay, the ones who are suffering right now, the ones who feel alone and helpless like I did. Those students need us to do better. They need policies that protect them. They need adults who believe them. They need consequences for people who hurt them, whether those people are students or teachers or anyone else. I'm here tonight to ask you to expand these changes district-wide. Make the training mandatory in every school. Install reporting systems everywhere. Review your policies about teacher conduct and student protection. And please create a scholarship program for students who have overcome bullying and adversity. Not just for me, but for future students who need to know that surviving something terrible can lead to something good." She took a final breath. "Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for taking this seriously. And thank you for giving me hope that we can create schools where every student feels safe, valued, and protected." The room erupted in applause. People stood up. Her mother was crying. Jasmine was clapping so hard her hands must have hurt. Even some of the board members had tears in their eyes. Mrs. Washington, the board president, waited for the applause to die down. "Miss Kim, thank you for your courage in sharing your story. Speaking truth to power is never easy, especially at your age, but you've done it with grace and strength." She turned to the other board members. "I move that we create a task force to implement Miss Kim's recommendations across all schools in our district. This should include mandatory training, reporting systems, policy reviews, and yes, the scholarship program she mentioned." "I second that motion," another board member said immediately. The vote was unanimous. All 7 board members voted yes. After the meeting, people crowded around Minji. Reporters asked for interviews. Parents thanked her. Teachers promised to do better. Detective Morrison shook her hand. "You're going to help a lot of people with what you did tonight," the detective said. "I've worked cyberbullying cases for years. Most victims never speak publicly. But when they do, it creates change. Real change." Principal Martinez approached with Dr. Chen. "Minji, that was extraordinary. You should consider a career in law or policy work." "Actually," Minji said, "I still want to be a teacher." Both administrators looked surprised. "After everything that happened?" Dr. Chen asked. "Especially because of everything that happened, I want to be the kind of teacher I needed. The kind who listens, the kind who protects, the kind who sees students as people, not as problems or projects. I want to be better than Mrs. Crawford. I want to be the opposite of her." Principal Martinez smiled. "Then education is lucky to have you in its future." Weeks later, the school board followed through on their promises. Task forces were created. Policies were reviewed and strengthened. Training dates were set, and the scholarship fund was established, with the first scholarship going to Minji herself. It would cover her first year of college tuition. The local news ran several follow-up stories about the case and the changes being made. Other school districts in the state started reaching out, asking for guidance on implementing similar programs. Minji's story had started a conversation that was spreading far beyond her own school. Mrs. Crawford, meanwhile, had been released from jail after serving 6 months. She was on probation and required to perform community service. She had to stay away from schools and children. Her teaching license was permanently revoked, and her name was added to a registry of people banned from education. She had lost her career, her reputation, and her freedom. Some people felt sorry for her, saying 6 months in jail had been enough punishment. Others felt she deserved more. Minji tried not to think about her at all. Mrs. Crawford had taken enough of her time and energy. She didn't deserve any more. Instead, Minji focused on the future. Her grades were better than ever. She was volunteering with the peer support program 3 times a week. She was preparing her college applications. And she was starting to dream again, something she hadn't been able to do during those dark weeks of harassment. One afternoon, she was tutoring a freshman named David, who was struggling with English. He was shy and quiet, and he always wore the same jacket even though it was too small for him. "I'm not good at writing," David said, looking at his paper in frustration. "Yes, you are," Minji said gently. "You just need practice. Look, you have good ideas here. We just need to organize them better. My last teacher said I was lazy, that I didn't try hard enough." Minji felt a flash of anger on his behalf. "Your last teacher was wrong. I've seen you work. You try hard. Some things are just difficult, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you're lazy. Really, and I'm going to help you get better. But you have to believe in yourself first." They worked together for another hour. When the session ended, David had a completed essay that he was actually proud of. As he left, he turned back. "Minji, thank you. You're a really good teacher." Minji felt warmth spread through her chest. "I'm not a teacher yet, just a tutor. You'll be a great teacher someday. I can tell." After he left, Jasmine found Minji in the library. "You ready to go home?" "Yeah, let me pack up." As they walked out of school together, Jasmine said, "You know what? Mrs. Crawford thought she could break you. She thought she could make you feel small and worthless. She thought she could destroy you. But she didn't," Minji said quietly. "She didn't." Jasmine agreed. "Instead, you took everything she did and used it to make yourself stronger. You used it to help other people. You used it to create change. You won. Minji thought about that as they walked home. She had won, but not in the way people usually thought of winning. She hadn't destroyed Mrs. Crawford, though Mrs. Crawford had destroyed herself. She hadn't sought revenge, though justice had been served. She had won by refusing to let the cruelty change who she was. She had won by speaking up when it would have been easier to stay silent. She had won by turning pain into purpose and suffering into strength. The scars were still there. She still had moments of doubt and fear. She still had bad days when she remembered the posts and the comments and the feeling of complete helplessness. But she also had good days. More good days than bad now. Days when she felt strong and capable and hopeful. Days when she looked at herself in the mirror and liked the person looking back. Not because she was perfect, but because she was a survivor. Because she had faced down her tormentor and won. Because she had found her voice and used it to protect others. And maybe, just maybe, she would prevent another student from going through what she had endured. That would be her victory. That would be her justice. That would be how she turned tragedy into triumph. The story of Minji Kim and Mrs. Crawford became a cautionary tale in education circles. It was taught in teacher training programs as an example of how adults can abuse their power. It was discussed in workshops about implicit bias and discrimination. It was cited in policy debates about student protection and teacher accountability. But for Minji, it was simply her story. The worst thing that had ever happened to her. And the thing that had made her who she was meant to be. She walked home with Jasmine, talking about their homework and their plans for the weekend. Just two normal teenagers living their lives. And that normalcy, that simple, peaceful moment, was perhaps the greatest victory of all.